If someone asks me a question about the meaning of my life, I will answer without hesitation. Family. There is nothing more important to me. I work and live for my family. Coming home after a long trip, seeing the happy faces of my children, hugging my wife. These are unforgettable moments. Unfortunately, however, these moments are in the past. I had to face a difficult choice and a conversation that turned my life upside down. Every time I get behind the wheel of my truck, I feel not only the weight of responsibility on my shoulders, but also the excitement of the journey ahead. The road for me is not just asphalt under my wheels, it is my second home where I spend most of my life. Many people think that the life of a trucker is loneliness and separation from family, and they are right. But for me, it's also an opportunity to see new places, to meet sunrises and sunsets in the most unexpected corners of our country. Every trip starts the same way. I check my cargo, pick up my documents, and make a playlist with my favorite music. Music helps me not to feel tired and brightens up the long hours on the road. But the most important thing for me on these trips is coming home. This moment is more precious to me than any roads and scenery outside the window. A few days before returning home, I start to feel a slight excitement. Thoughts of meeting the kids, of hugging my wife swirl around in my head. I think about what games we'll make up this time, what stories I'll tell them before bedtime. And presents. This time I chose a big Lego set. I know how they love to spend hours connecting the colorful pieces, assembling them into whole cities. Approaching home always excites me in a special way. The feelings that encompass me in these moments are hard to describe in one word. It is the joy of the upcoming reunion and the relief of knowing that soon I will be back among my loved ones. Those who are waiting for me and whom I love immensely are welcoming me home. My heart begins to beat faster as I pull up on our street. I park, get out of the car, and walk up to the door of our house. Behind that door, the people most dear to me are waiting for me. The moment I open the door, the whole world behind me disappears. All that remains is the warm light on the driveway and the soothing sounds of home. My children, Jack and Alan, run toward me, screaming with joy. They hug my legs, their voices sounding like music to me. I bend down to pick them both up, one in each arm, and hug them tightly. Their laughter and enthusiastic faces fill my heart with warmth. Dorothy appears in the kitchen doorway with a smile that makes my heart beat even faster. "Welcome home, my love," she says, her eyes shining with happiness. After tucking the kids in, I walk over to her and hug her, smelling the familiar scent of her hair. We stand for a few moments without saying a word, just enjoying each other's closeness. When the initial excitement subsides, I pull out the presents. The kids squeal with joy at the sight of a large Lego box. "This is for both of you," I say, and they immediately start looking at the box, discussing what they will build first. The evening is spent in a warm family atmosphere. We gather in the kitchen where Dorothy has prepared dinner, my favorite dish, rosemary roasted potatoes and grilled steaks. Around the table we share news, tell each other stories. The children chirp happily as they tell of their adventures at school and at home, and Dorothy smiles as she listens to us. After dinner, we move to the living room. I helped the children assemble a new Lego set while Dorothy poured tea. We laughed and joked, and I felt a surge of energy and joy from this simple family evening. When the kids started yawning, I carried them to bed. "Tell us a story," Jack asked as I tucked them in. I told them a tale of faraway lands and brave explorers. Their eyes gradually closed, and soon they fell asleep, smiling in their sleep. When I returned to the living room, I saw Dorothy sitting on the couch. She was wearing her new underwear, and at that moment we gave ourselves over to passion. Afterward, we went to bed together. The day after I returned, I decided to surprise Dorothy. "Let's go out tonight," I suggested to her in the morning, watching her smile that lit up everything around her. Our restaurant was the place where I had proposed to her 18 years ago. The place where we went for the most special moments of our lives. The whole day was filled with pleasant anticipation. First, I took the kids to Dorothy's parents and then picked her up from work. We went home to get ready for the evening. I watched her pick out her dress and couldn't help but marvel at how beautiful she was. I chose a simple but elegant suit myself. I wanted this evening to be special for both of us. Upon entering the restaurant, we were greeted warmly. This place was a second home to us, every corner of which was filled with memories. We were escorted to our favorite table by the window. The light of candles softly illuminated the table, creating a cozy and romantic atmosphere. That evening, we were served by a waiter named Antonio. He had been working here for several years and was well known to us. Antonio was always polite and friendly. This time, Antonio's behavior seemed strange to me. He seemed to be paying too much attention to Dorothy. His looks were too personal at first glance. I thought it was my imagination and decided not to dwell on it. We ordered dinner and I tried to focus on Dorothy, savoring every moment we spent together. We talked about many things during dinner, reminiscing about our first dates and future plans. I noticed Dorothy's eyes lit up when she talked about our children and weekend plans. We laughed and shared our thoughts about new places I had seen in my travels. Everything was perfect except for the strange feeling I got from Antonio's stares. After dinner, we decided to take a walk in a nearby park. The night was warm and we walked slowly holding hands, enjoying the silence and closeness to each other. The house was empty as we had decided to send the kids to Dorothy's parents for the night, so the house would be all ours. Not only did we have a romantic evening, but also a night out. The next day, after my morning coffee with Dorothy, I went to pick up the kids from Dorothy's parents and came back. Dorothy asked me to run to the local store for groceries, and I enthusiastically agreed. I had been enjoying running errands lately, as it gave me a chance to enjoy the everyday aspects of family life that I had sorely missed. On the way to the store, my attention was caught by a familiar figure in the soda aisle. It was Maria, the manager of our favorite restaurant. She seemed a little surprised to see me, but quickly smiled and waved. "Hi, how unexpected to see you here," she said as she approached me. "Hi, Maria. Yeah, just came by to get something. How are things going at the restaurant?" We talked a bit about work and how the last dinner went. Then suddenly the conversation turned to Dorothy. You know, Maria started looking around as if searching for the right words. "I've seen your wife here a few times in recent weeks," Maria began. "She would come to the restaurant late at night. That struck me as odd, since you usually come together," she continued. My heart raced alarmingly. Was she alone? I asked, trying to hide my anxiety. "Yes, and what's even stranger, she wasn't alone," Maria replied. "Antonio, one of our waiters, walked her to her car after closing time." "I'm sorry, it's probably none of my business, but I thought you should know," she added. I thanked Maria for her honesty, even though my mind was spinning. We exchanged phone numbers in case I needed to know more. On the drive home, I tried to piece things together. Dorothy had never mentioned going to the restaurant without me, let alone seeing Antonio. What could that possibly mean? I needed to gather more information before drawing any conclusions, but one thing was clear. My peace had been disturbed and I needed to find out what was going on. I returned home and the whole day went by as if nothing had happened, just a normal family day. The next morning, as I drank coffee in the kitchen and looked at the kids' drawings on the fridge, I'd realized I couldn't live in ignorance. I needed to know the truth, whatever it was. I decided to proceed deliberately and quietly so as not to disrupt our family harmony for no good reason. I also thought that Maria might have been mistaken, which was probably the first thing I thought. I talked to Dorothy, but not directly about my suspicions. I asked her how she spent her time when I wasn't home. She told me about her daily routine, like picking up her kids from school, evenings spent watching movies or reading books, and her job in accounting. Not a word about going to the restaurant. I tried to read between the lines, but there was nothing on Dorothy's face but the usual tiredness and preoccupation with household chores. After breakfast, when Dorothy had taken the kids to school, I sat down at the computer. Starting an investigation on my own wife seemed unusual, but I had to find out the truth. I found a private investigator on the internet, recommended for his professionalism and tact. After a phone call, we arranged to meet at a cafe near my home. The meeting was quiet, unobtrusive. I described the situation to the detective without leaving out details about Dorothy's recent visits to the restaurant and her meetings with Antonio. The detective listened intently, noting key points. "We'll start with surveillance of the restaurant," he said. "We'll try to determine if your wife travels there in your absence and meets with anyone afterward." After discussing the details and the cost of the services, I was somewhat relieved. Finally, I had taken a step towards solving this mystery, albeit with a heavy heart. I returned home to prepare for the next step, talking to Maria. I hoped that she could provide more information that would help me and the detective in our investigation. I called Maria and suggested we meet after her work. She agreed, realizing the seriousness of the situation. The restaurant closed at 10 p.m., so I told Dorothy that I would stop by a friend whose car had unexpectedly broken down. In fact, I went to meet Maria. We met outside the restaurant. I didn't want my car to smell like a woman's perfume, so we decided to talk outside. Maria was nervous, but I couldn't help but notice that she was wearing a beautiful outfit. "I have a favor to ask of you," I began. "I'm going away for a couple weeks soon, and I need you to watch Antonio. Can you help?" I actually offered to let her watch him. Her voice sounded strained. "Yes," she nodded. "I've hired a private investigator, but if you see anything suspicious, let me know. I won't forget the favor." Maria agreed to help. After talking for about 10 more minutes, I offered Maria a ride home. When I got to my house, I left the car windows open and went to bed like it was a normal day. When asked by my wife if my friend was okay, I replied that his battery was dead and I had brought him a spare. We then went to bed. I had another trip planned in a week, so I spent that time fully immersed in family matters. Dorothy didn't raise any suspicions, which pleased me. Before leaving, I said goodbye to everyone and hit the road. During the following weeks, the detective did not inform me of his findings. I called him a couple times, but he only gathered information and was only willing to talk after I returned to town, which was very frustrating for me, as I wanted to know everything as soon as possible. I didn't call Maria, thinking that she would contact me if something important happened. I was supposed to be home in a week, but since my business ended much earlier than planned, I could go back 4 days earlier. It was midnight when I decided to come home early, having bought a bouquet of flowers and a big teddy bear beforehand, hoping everything was okay and wanting to surprise my beloved. I parked the truck at the base, got into my car, and headed home. Dorothy's car was parked outside the house, and the light was on in our bedroom on the second floor. I wondered why she was awake at this late hour. As I approached the house, I turned off the car and went to the trunk to get the presents. Noticing the lights were off, it struck me as odd. I went to the door and turned the key. It was late, and I wanted to call for Dorothy because I knew she was awake, but I didn't. I figured our children were asleep, and I didn't want to wake them up. Taking off my shoes, I noticed a pair of unfamiliar Nike sneakers. Going upstairs, I saw Dorothy, who seemed to be asleep in our bedroom. I turned on the light. "Don't pretend, I know you're awake," I said seriously. She playfully replied, "I guessed you might come home." She jumped up from the bed, dressed in seductive lingerie, the color of the blue lagoon. "Look what I bought for you today," she began. "That's all great, but where are the kids?" I asked. "They're at my parents'. I got held up at work today, and I realized I couldn't pick them up from school, so I asked my dad to go get them," she replied. "But you said you bought that outfit today, didn't you?" I asked. "Sorry, that was yesterday," she said. "I just saw you pull up and decided to wear it." "Why are you up so late?" I asked. "I don't know, insomnia, plus I had a feeling you'd come home, and I was right. Plus, you look so serious. Is everything okay?" "I think you need to relax, and I can help with that," Dorothy said, trying to lure me into bed. But Dorothy's words made me uneasy. She seemed to be hiding something. That's when I remembered the sneakers in the hallway. "Did you buy more sneakers?" I asked casually. "Oh, sneakers? Yes, I found them on the street today," she said, and added that she had brought them to our house. "Well, yeah, they seem nice. Could be for the kids in the future," she said. At this point, my phone started ringing. I took my mind off my conversation with my wife and looked to see who could be calling me so late. When Dorothy was left sitting on the bed, I stepped aside and picked up the phone. "Yes, Mr. Stone, I shipped the truck. It's in perfect condition. What happened?" I began, pretending to talk to my boss, Tony. I walked over to the window. "Can you see me?" he asked. "No, sir," I replied, then saw a faint flash of light in the window of a neighboring house. "How about now?" The detective continued. "Yes, sir," I replied, following his instructions. "I have 2 pieces of news for you, one bad and one very bad. Which one do you want to hear first?" the detective asked. "Start with the first, sir," I suggested. "The bad news is that your wife is cheating on you. Over these past few weeks, I have accumulated over 8 pages of dirt, 34 photos, and 2 videos," he began. "Ugh, I understand, sir," I said. "The really bad news is that you decided to come home and didn't inform me. Because in your house, right in the room where you're standing, your wife's lover is sitting in the closet," the detective said, and a chill ran through my body. I had already sensed the presence of another person in the house, but now the feeling was heightened. "And what do you propose to do, sir?" I asked. "I don't know what to advise you. Anyway, it's your house, and it's entirely your right. Just act reasonably. We've gathered all the evidence you'll need for the meeting for you to review. In the meantime, I wish you good luck," the detective said. "Thank you, goodbye, sir," I said and hung up, continuing to stand like a statue by the window. "Is everything okay, dear?" Dorothy asked, sitting up on the bed. I turned to her then, gave her a fake smile and said, "Yes, my sunshine, better than ever." As I approached Dorothy, I jokingly suggested intimacy, but she began to object. "Wait, how about we take a shower first? Do you want to go straight to bed after your trip?" she said. I suspected she wanted to use the moment I was in the shower to get her lover out of the house. "Then I'll go to the closet to get some clean clothes," I said. "You better go take a shower and I'll get you everything," she replied. I insisted, "I'd better get everything myself. You better get ready and wait for me here," I said, getting out of bed and heading towards the bathroom. She stood in front of me and started talking. "I missed you so much. You don't have to take a shower." "You're kidding. Let me go in my closet," I said. Dorothy rushed toward me, starting to kiss me fiercely. I pushed her back on the bed and walked over to the closet. "Don't open it, please," she said, starting to cry. I thought to myself that she had given up too soon, opened the closet and saw a young man in his underwear sitting at the bottom, Antonio. He looked up at me and I could see the fear in his eyes. "Oh my God, there's a burglar in the closet," I shouted ironically, grabbing Antonio by the ear, leading him out into the hallway and shutting the bedroom door tightly. I placed Antonio in the bathroom, closed the door and turned on the cold water. "You're crazy, kid," I started to say. "I'm sorry," he said as I doused him with cold water. "That's the wrong answer. Why did you sleep with my wife?" I asked him. "Please forgive me, she just started showing interest in me and I couldn't resist," the waiter said. "Tell the truth," I demanded and doused him with cold water again. "It is the truth," he exclaimed. Suddenly, I heard someone trying to break into the bathroom. It was Dorothy coming out of her room. I left Antonio in the bathroom and walked over to my wife. "Go to your room and wait for me there," I told her. Realizing that Antonio was too scared to lie, I took him outside and sternly warned him never to return. It struck me deeply that all of this happened in our family home. Dorothy had purposely left the children at her parents' house to have a date at our home. When I returned to the room, I found Dorothy sitting on the bed in tears. "Why are you doing this?" she began. "Why did you destroy our marriage? Why did you cheat on me?" I asked bluntly. "What do you mean?" "I was afraid to fall asleep in a room with a thief and a pervert. But you came and saved me," she said as a tear rolled down my cheek. Dorothy didn't acknowledge her affair and denied it. I silently picked up my bag and walked out of the house. Dorothy tried to stop me, but I told her I would only contact her when she was ready to tell me the truth. I left for the motel, leaving Dorothy alone at home. She tried to contact me, but I wasn't interested and we didn't talk. I was sure I wanted a divorce. The next day, I met with the detective who showed me the results of his week's work. He impressed me so much that I paid him more than he asked for. I had pictures of my wife kissing, hugging, walking around hotels with the waiter, and even their intimate moments in my own home. I was shocked that she dared to bring someone into our home, our private world. I went back to the motel and talked to a lawyer first. We filed papers with the court. For some reason, I decided to call Maria and she came to see me. We just talked all evening and then I drove her home. Dorothy got a copy of the proof of her adultery and realized it was useless to resist, so she signed the papers. Although I had a strong desire to distribute the photos and video to Dorothy's acquaintances, I refrained. Only Maria and my parents found out about it 3 months later. During that time, we were able to get a divorce. It was a difficult time as I did not see my children and every day was a real nightmare. During the trial, I found out that Dorothy was cheating on me because I went away a lot and left her alone. She was seeking male attention elsewhere, not realizing where it could lead. She wanted to reconcile, but I was adamantly against it. If she had told me everything from the beginning, maybe things would have turned out differently. But I couldn't go on living in lies and ignorance. The court decided that the children would stay with Dorothy, and I did not claim the house. Although Dorothy was a great mother, she was definitely not a good wife, for she had deceived me for over a year. She even dared to bring someone to our house and to the restaurant where I had once proposed to her. It was hard for me to come to terms with all of this. I promised my children that we would see each other every time I went back to town. After the exposure, Antonio decided to leave town. I don't know what would have happened to him if I hadn't held back, but I didn't care. I realized it wasn't his fault, it was Dorothy's fault. I traveled a lot and was away from home a lot, but was that really an excuse for cheating and lying? I wish Dorothy had confessed everything right away, but unfortunately that didn't happen. I now live in a small house bought with my own money. I pay alimony and work. Maria visits me often, and we may spend a couple nights together, but no more. I'm not looking for a relationship, but Maria doesn't mind, so it's beneficial to me. Dorothy continues to work, and it's given her a hard time as her parents are upset for her, to say the least. Shortly after the divorce, when I went to visit my children, I smelled alcohol in Dorothy's breath, and she did not look well. This caused me to go to the hospital and call the police, and eventually through the court, I was able to take the children back with me. I didn't expect this development. I thought Dorothy would be able to cope and take care of the children in peace, but she didn't seem to be able to. I ended up moving back to my old house, but soon sold it and bought a new place in the same neighborhood. I now live with my children and have had to change my job to one that pays less, but one that allows me to be home every day. My parents, as well as Dorothy's parents, helped look after the children while Dorothy stayed at her parents' house and continued to drink alcohol. After 4 months, Maria moved in with me and began living with me and the children. To my surprise, the children accepted her warmly as she accepted them. Maria quit her job as a receptionist and started working online from home, spending only 4 hours a day. Overall, my life stabilized and things got back to normal with only a few changes. I didn't expect things to turn out this way, and I sincerely hoped Dorothy would be able to handle parenting, given that I was supporting her financially. However, she chose a different path. Now, I don't feel guilty. Everyone says I did the right thing, and I agree. This is the end of the story. Please share your opinion in the comments. Do you think the main character did the right thing by deciding to divorce his wife? Why do you think the main character's wife decided to cheat? Can the main character be blamed for her action? Leave your comments. Also, do not forget to subscribe to our channel and put a like so that you do not miss new stories. We wish you good luck.